This is an installation video of the Thor's Lightning Total Control Air Compressor Bundle. It comes with a mount for the Jeep JL. They call it their Refuge Mount. Hopefully you find it helpful. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section and I'll try and get back with you quickly. As I was pre-checking everything, I found out the included hardware was a little short. So I grabbed 4 6mm by 30 flanged bolts and then 4 nylock nuts, also flanged. I thought that would spread the weight nicely. And as you can see, they're going to fit into the other included hardware perfectly. You can put the original sleeve and rubber through everything. So I recommend, if they're not included in the set, you run to the hardware store and get this. The next step is pretty obvious. What you're going to do is just take this factory plate off. I've already taken a couple of the nuts and bolts off for the sake of time, but very obvious. This plate comes from the factory. It's not needed anymore. Just take those bolts off and then toss that thing to the side. You'll be ready for the next step.
Okay, so you want to get a good workspace where you can have access to put the nylock nuts on the bottom. In my case, it's going to be my workout bench. So anyway, this is the part facing outwards on the Jeep. Also, this flat part is the part facing outwards on the Jeep. That is what is going to bolt together here with the air compressor on there. So I'm going to grab the air compressor. I'm going to get it set up here. I'll run the first bolt in, and then the rest of it's obviously going to be self-explanatory. But anyway, so let me grab it. One other thing to mention, I have the handle aimed towards the back. You could put it to the front. It clears it down here. Just to me, it looked like it would be cleaner. Maybe this won't work out and I'll have to redo it, but to me, it looks like it'll be cleaner to have it facing the back. So anyway, just to get the first one on for demonstration purposes, you're gonna have your flanged bolt, a rubber piece, that sleeve that came with it, and you're going to get that through first. You give it a little support. Put that second rubber piece on, so that's going to go in between. And then what we do next is get it fed through these 2 spots, and this is where having a place to get access underneath makes it easy. All right. So I got that first one on and set up. I'm going to cut the video. Obviously, the rest of it's just done the same way. Get those 4 set up, and then that part will be ready to mount. Okay, I have this mounted and secured in the vehicle. I have these Rockworks bolts that secure it down. I already had them existing on my hardtop. I did find one thing I mentioned before about the handle. It can't go to the back because it will hit that window. So I'm going to bring it to the front. I'll just put a zip tie around it so it doesn't bounce on the road or on the trails, but still everything has a clean look and a clear view, so I can do everything I want to with it. So for the install, we're going to start by just moving the coolant overflow out of the way so we can get to this chase that's in the back here. That way we can run the wire all the way across inside there and keep it nice and clean. Apparently this can just be lifted up and moved slightly out of the way. Okay, we've got the coolant overflow just set lightly out of the way, so we have access to this wire chase all the way across to the battery side. Should be hopefully pretty easy to do from here. We're going to show you how to get access to that wire chase. Supposedly you just lift some tabs and it pulls right out. So on a Jeep JL, as I mentioned, there's a wire chase goes across the back near the firewall. And you can get access by that by coming right in here. There's these loops. And if you put a flathead screwdriver under that and just gently lift up, you can pull forward and then you can open this up. So we're going to open it up all the way across, and then we're going to run our positive wire over to where it will land on the fuse. So in the engine compartment of the 392, it's a little tight and it was a little hard for us to figure out where to mount the fuse. So we got an idea from a guy in the JL forum. And what you do is you remove these 2 screws, which we've already pre-loosened. Drop a piece of perforated steel on here, which I've painted up. And then we're going to do a piece this way, and that'll give us a nice spot to mount that fuse. And also, if you need a bus bar or something like that in the future. In order to keep this bracket from rubbing on the paint here and maybe scratching it up, just going to elevate it slightly with a couple of rubber washers. It actually was a grommet that we cut in half, and it works perfect to just give it the right elevation. So anyway, just something we had in the garage and works perfect. We just added a couple stainless steel bolts to it. We've got it bolted down. If you look close, you can see probably the rubber grommets we have underneath. We kind of doubled up on this one just to give a little extra clearance. So you can see that keeps us off the paint. And we are ready to mount right here our fuse. Okay, we came upon a little obstacle here, and I cannot see how you would get a good connection with this. This came with a 3/8 lug on the end of this wire that comes with the kit. And if you put this thing on here, you can clearly see, I'm going to come in kind of close, this will no way give you a good connection. This is way too big. So I happen to have some 1/4 inch for the 6 gauge cable, and that obviously is the right size for that. I crimped one and heat shrunk it on here. Back off so you get a good view. But anyway, yeah, so we cut that off, we put this one on. If you take this one and put it on here, you're gonna obviously see that is the right size for what we need. So I would suggest you have 1/4 inch 6 gauge if the factory hasn't switched these over. Okay, we're making some good progress. We've now got this attached. What we did is use some 1/4 inch by 1 inch bolts on there with some nylocks, a couple washers. That's all secured. We have our positive wire running up through, going across inside that wire chase. So we're gonna walk over there. The access is pretty easy to get to. It's easier to pop out from the inside. And that is right down there. So you can see it. So we can, anyway, we drilled a little hole in that. We've got that now through the firewall, and we're gonna do the inside. So stay tuned and we'll see how that runs. Okay, I'm gonna kind of explain what we had to do here. This was a process. First we had to undo the door, so we had to do that. And then we had to get up here and pull out the main panel, which has, it pulls out this way towards the car. The short panel by the door pulls towards you. And then we have made enough room to run the wire down. However, the wire chase also needed to come out. And so the wire chase here has some tabs right here and here and here. And if you move that out of the way, it's gonna make it a lot easier because you're gonna have wires that go to your seat that are gonna stop it, so you can't just pull it through necessarily. So now we've made it to where we're headed to the back seat. We won't reassemble this yet till we know we have enough wire and everything's good. And then we'll come back over here. We'll zip tie everything up and make it clean and put everything back together. Okay, we have now made it to the back. Without removing this, we were able to run it through the chase. So you can see where it's come up. We're gonna pull this carpet back and run it towards the Refuge Mount. And we did find that there is a negative right here, a nice spot for that. So we are going to hook up the included negative wire right there. So on the back seat, I made one more modification to the wiring. I'm gonna come in a little closer on this one. So if you see here, there's a negative right here that's just perfect to use. And what came with the negative wire on it already is this giant lug. As you can see, it's way too big for that. So what I did is crimped on a beautiful 1/4 inch size that's gonna fit great I cut the cable a little shorter so it'll be better to size. And we're getting close to wrapping up. The Anderson plugs will go on in just a few minutes, hopefully.
Okay, so we're now at the point that we want to get to this power cord that came with the Thor Lightning air compressor. There's obviously positive and negative. There is an easy way to identify positive. So if you cut this off and are like, oh crap, what side is positive? It has a little ribbed edge down that side. But if you want to be extra safe, or if your cord happens to not have it, which again, this is the positive side, I can feel it. But if you just weren't sure, if yours was different, you might want to take a little piece of tape or something on that side, because you're going to cut this thing off, and that way you'll know what side the positive is. So you could mark it like that, but you can see that ribbed on that side, and the negative side is smooth. So pretty obvious. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this and set up the Anderson connector on it. Okay, we're going to get these wires stripped. So in order to do that, the smart thing to do is figure out our distance here with the Anderson plug to get a good connection down in there. Don't forget, you're going to want to use a little heat shrink probably. So just measure up and slip your heat shrink on first is the reason I mentioned that. So my stripping point is going to be right about here. And if you went a little long, it's not going to hurt, as opposed to going too short, because if you go a little long, you can always trim back your copper a little bit. So anyway, let's see what we got here. Get this stripped off, and we'll get both of them done. Make sure we didn't cut any copper. Make sure we got a good cut. There we go. That looks good. All right, so we got the first one done. I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. I'll come back when we do the crimp. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that these should be crimped in the center here to flare out. That's how it's going to go in the Anderson connector, so make sure it flares out. And you want your positive and negative to be very even, because they're both going to go in there. So looking at that, we are just about even. That needs to push in a hair more. There we go. Okay, I got a good crimp. That is very solid. Let's hope the positive goes in the same fashion. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put the shrink wrap on these. Okay, we're ready to get this connected. We have a plus and a minus. Very important, obviously, that you get those in right. This takes a little bit of effort. You're going to want to make sure and give some good pressure to get this in here. Those things facing up. I'll try the positive first. We'll see if we can get it. Yep, you hear a positive snap, and hopefully you can see it in there. Do the same thing with the negative. Seems to want to be... Worked a little harder to get it in. Yep, okay, we got them in. That should mean, now that they're fully in there, that we can connect these up like that. And we're all connected and ready. Okay, install is finally complete. I'll show you what we did here. This is the pieces of perforated steel angle. This is the 2.5 inch. This is 1.5 inch. I've got room now to mount some other stuff. This is the fuse. This is the wire going to the Thor's Lightning. This is the wire going to the battery. It is marked on the fuse which goes to which, so just check the fuse if you're not sure and it will tell you. What I did up here though is just run the positive wire to an Anderson connector, because I already have one on here for the battery to use with the winch. So I just also used one here. That gets me all ready and set for the disconnect, reconnect on this side if I need it without having to run another wire to the battery. To protect the positive wire and anything else, I put a piece of fuel hose that I just split down the middle and zip tied on the edge of the metal. Should keep everything safe. Now we'll take a look inside at the completed work. So as you can see, everything is done in here. Up coming through this side piece of carpet is where the wires come out. And what I did is just used a little bit of Velcro and reusable zip ties. They have a little tab on them to reuse them, so these aren't rattling around. This is the wires from here. Anderson connector here, Anderson connector here. Ready to connect anytime. I just popped that Velcro off. A little bit of Velcro and reusable zip tie, as I said. And then I used a reusable zip tie on this. Told it here, so this isn't rattling around. And she's ready to go. She is ready to use.